Hallelujah. Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Welcome and welcome back to Voice in the Wilderness. We have begun this study of the 10 words, the 10 matters, the 10 commandments. We have done what's in a word. We have talked about how important words are. And the way we see it here is that words are of significant importance. They are, as Proverbs would say, they are life and they are death, either or. That's how important they are. They're important to us as human beings. Let me just take the shine off my nose. They are important. We talked about the importance of words as a whole, in general, right? Words in general, not just words that God speak or God spoke, but words in general. And then we did that for 2 sessions, and then we went into the first word or the first commandment in Exodus 20 and other places that it's located. And we talked about the importance of that word being the first word. Why is that? Why does that word take preeminence over all the other words? It's the first word. So maybe preeminence is the wrong word to use. Because it doesn't necessarily take preeminence, but it's the first word in the list, right? And we talked about why that particular word is the first word. We went over that at length. I will read it as a method of continuity to bring us into this current word that we're going to go into. But we are going to go into the second word. I'm getting this chair effect again. Okay, when the chair keep going down, I gotta change my chair again. Oh, give me 1 second, excuse me. Oh God, that's funny. What's up with the chairs, man? Somebody playing with these chairs, okay? Anyway, the back is kind of far. I don't know. Okay, so we are going to go into the second word. And I'm going to read the first word as a matter of continuity from the last time we spoke. We're back in Exodus 20. So if you have your Bibles, I'll give you a second. I'll take a sip of my coffee and then you could get your Exodus 20. All right. The very first commandment, right? And I know from the Jewish segment of believers, the Jewish segment believes that the Shema is the first commandment, is the greatest commandment. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah is our God, Yehovah is one. And when I think about it, right, if you want to think that that's the first and greatest commandment, that's fine. I believe, however, that particular word is a statement. It's a statement of fact. It's a statement of truth. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah is our God. Yehovah is one, right? To me, that's not, because what are you, there's no instructions in that. It's just information, right? It's a statement to me, just like the statement that I'm going to read. In Exodus 20, verse 1, these words were spoken. Yehovah spoke all these words, saying, right? So the narrator, the writer, the scribe is letting us know who is speaking these words. Yehovah spoke all these words saying, I am Yehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. So that in itself is not a commandment. That's a statement. Just like Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. See what I'm saying? Hear, O Israel, Yehovah is God, Yehovah is one. Right? I am Yehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. It's an emphatic statement, a bold statement, a rich, dynamic, absolute. It's a statement of absoluteness, absolutivity. I'm creating words here. It's clear, it's concise, it's precise, it's exact, it's astounding, it's elaborate, it is what it is. After making that declarative statement, after declaring who he is and what he has done, see, it's not just who he is, but he's telling his audience, the children of Israel, what he did, what he has done, right? I am Yehovah your Elohim. That's the declarative statement. And it is, I am the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. He's saying here, nobody else did it. He didn't get anybody else help. He didn't ask for anybody else help. It was him alone, all by himself. Even though Moses was there, and Aaron was there, and Joshua was there, and all the other people, and the other people chipped in. What he is saying is, they couldn't chip in. Moses couldn't do what he did. Joshua and Aaron, and none of them could do what they did without his help, without his input, without him being the driving force behind all of that. You see? Now, after declaring those things, he says, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall have no other gods beside me. You will have no other gods. You must not worship any other God. You must not have anything. Anything in your pocket, anything in your eyesight, anything in your imagination, anything in your bag, nothing attached to your car window, nothing attached to your clothing, to your shoes, wherever you could have it, wherever you could put it. He says, you shall have no other gods before me. An astounding statement. The first word, and we talked about why. Because we are who we are. We just like to have something, to see something, to touch something. And when I say we, I'm including myself, because I'm a human being just like you are. Right? We just have this affinity to touch and to see and to we want something visible, something tangible, something that we could say, this is God or that is God. Right? We don't like the idea that God is a spirit, and they who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. That's not an idea that we really like. It's not an idea that we gravitate to. The ideas we gravitate to is, that's my God, look him over there. Look him there, he talking to all the people. That's him there. That's my God. That cow over there, that snake, That tree over there, that's my God. You know, we that's what we associate with. That's what we love to associate with. This idea that this God is this invisible God and we can't see him. And when we talking, we look like we talking to ourselves, you know, on all these things. That's kind of like further behind in terms of what we have in our minds. Nonetheless, God is real, God is true, God is there, he's upright, and he is as real as I'm looking at you, or you looking at me on the screen. Right? And we've had countless testimonies all over the world from all kinds of people who have made the claim of seeing God. Even I, on this program, on this podcast, on this recording, I have made claims that God has spoken to me. And he has. I am not going to deny that, not ever, because I know what I heard and I know what had happened. So when I say God said, I'm not just saying it vicariously. Right? So this idea that God is a spirit and they who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth must become reality to us. It must become tangible to us. It must become true. It must become real. And it becomes real when we begin to embrace the word of God, the words that God spoke, the word that God keeps speaking. We have to embrace those. We have to embrace that. Again, I would say many people say they believe in God. Many people say they believe in God, but many people who say that show their disbelief by what they do and a lot of times what they say. Okay? After God makes this first statement, God doesn't want us to gravitate to things, right? For instance, the snake in the wilderness, the people was rebellious. God sent serpents among them, right? Not the devil, God. See, that's the other thing we love to do. We love this idea that it's always somebody else's fault. It's never my fault. I love the idea that I could point to you and say it's your fault. You are the reason why I am doing this, or you are the reason why I say this. You are the reason why I feel this way. We love that. That's the other thing we love to gravitate to. And God is trying to tell us that's no. The devil had nothing to do with this. This is between me and you. This is what God wants us to understand. Right? After he makes that first word, that first emphatic statement, he makes another. Right? It falls into the category. In other words, he says, you shall have no other gods before me. And then it's as if he qualified what the other gods, how you put those gods before him. He gives you an idea of what you do to put those gods before him. And he's telling you, no, don't do that. Because the first two words, they relate. And we're going to read the second word. Hi, relax yourself. And as we read Exodus 20, verse 4, the second word reads as follows. You shall not make for yourselves an idol. See, this is a reason why the first word is the first word. There's a reason why he made the emphatic statement before he declared the first word. And there's a reason why he's making this second word. He's putting them kind of like in that order, if you will. There's a reason why. Think about it. This is serious issues with us as human beings. These are the most serious issues. See, we fight to answer the question where we come from. Some people believe God created us. Some people believe we just appeared. Some people believe we evolved from apes and all sundry things. And we have all these diverse ideas of how we were here, how we are here, how we got here. And God is saying, hey, just want you to know. Lock it down. This is it, yeah. Because he understands our affinity. He understands those things that we love to gravitate to. Those of us who cannot put our trust in his word that says he created us. Those who put their trust in evolution, the theory, right? In the theory of, we evolve either from everything clashing together, the Big Bang theory, or the theory of evolving from what? I don't know. How did it, if we evolved from the Neanderthals or whatever that was, how did that got here? How did the Neanderthal come here? Right? We talked about that movie that they're showing now, 65 or 75 or 85 or whatever the movie is with that with Adam Driver. Right? I talked about that. I think in the last segment we talked about that this vehicle that he was in crash landed on the earth. Well, where was the vehicle? Where did that vehicle come from? Where did they get all that fancy technology to shoot the dinosaurs or whatever? Where did all that come from? Right? And it crash landed on the earth. So that means that this human being was living on another planet. And we create all these ideas, all these imagery of things we don't know. Because we don't want to take the simple thing that God has told us. God has told us, I created you from the dust of the ground. How come when we die, we go back to the dust? How come? God said he made us from dust. How come when we die, after years pass being in the ground, when you go dig up in the grave, you can't find us no more. We disappear into the dust. How come? So God must be saying something that he knows. It's just we don't want to. That's too simple. See, we are too technologically advanced to believe in something this simple. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of how we are. But remember, God says in Romans, Paul writes in Romans, that God takes the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. God is, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, God is really simple. He's not simple-minded, mind you. But he's simple, right? He deals in exquisite simplicity. We are the ones who confuffle and confound things and corrupt, right, and confuse things. We are the ones who do that. So he says, as a postamble, if you will, to his first word, you shall have no other God before me, he says, you shall not make for yourself an idol. Okay, let's stop right there for a second. What does he mean you shall not make for yourself an idol? because he understands what we gravitate to. We want to see, taste, touch, feel, hear something that we know that's there. We don't want to feel, taste, touch, hear, and what's the other thing? Something that we imagine, that's something that we think about. We want to see it and feel it and point at it and touch it and talk to it. And he's saying here, don't make something for yourselves an idol. In other words, you human being, you look at a tree, the tree can't talk, the tree can't walk, the tree can't do nothing, that hardly anything that you could do. I wouldn't say nothing because the tree bear fruit and you do bear fruit also. Not fruit like the tree. Oh gosh, come on now. The tree is there, being what the tree was created to be. And we so want to hold something up in high esteem that we begin to worship the tree. And I know it sounds foolish, but there are people out there who worship trees. There are people out there who worship cows. There are people out there who worship snakes. There are people out there who worship all kinds of things that, honestly speaking, the people themselves are of a higher echelons than the things themselves. So can you imagine? You worshiping a cow, but your estate is way higher than the cow's estate. In other words, God gives you permission to eat the cow. But you refuse to eat the cow because you hold the cow up in the air like this and say, the cow is my God. As they did, was it in no, it wasn't in when they went to the mountain and Moses went up to the mountain to get these 10 words, and people say, hey, Moses taking too long. Okay, he gone up there now. It's 40 days and it's 40 nights. That's too long. We can't wait no more. We don't know what happened to him. He might be dead. I don't know. Let's make our own God. See, we so impatient. Right? And I say we, us all. We no different today than they were. Yeah, I know we said they were hard-headed and hard-hearted. Even God said that. But so are we. We just like them. We know better. We are no better than they. They who was in the wilderness, who worshiped the cow, who made the golden calf. They took gold they were wearing. Gold that they had in their ears, gold that they had around the neck, on their hands. They were wearing the gold. The human beings, were using the inanimate objects, gold. They were using it to make themselves look pretty. And they took off the inanimate things, the things that they were using, and they fashioned it into the image of a cow. And then Aaron says, this is your God. So the cow led them out of Egypt. The cow killed Pharaoh in the deep sea. The cow gave them water. The cow fed them manna. The cow can't even walk. The cow can't even move. The cow cannot even give milk. Yet still, human beings with with the intellect that they're supposed to have, choose the cow as their God. This is the kinds of things that has happened and continue to happen today. People worship these foolish things. And these are the things that makes God upset. Because in your own intellectual brilliance, you cannot even see the stupidity of what we're doing. We can't see it. We cannot see it. That's how blinded we are. And God knows that we have such a great affinity to make things with our own hands. Imagine that. You make something with your hand and then you bow down to that thing that you made and you call that thing an idol. And sometimes you don't call it an idol. Sometimes you just, the way you act towards it, it becomes an idol. Your car and your children and your house and your land and your property and your business. It becomes an idol. And you cast God aside and you choose everything else. And that's the reason why he's saying here, don't make yourself an idol. Don't make nothing. And we think that making things is like in the literal sense that we have to make something like a cup or a phone or a computer or something. Doesn't necessarily mean to literally make something. It could mean to have something in your brain, in your head, a thought, right? An imagination. And he goes on to talk about that. He says, you shall not make for yourselves an idol, comma, neither any image of anything. And we talked about this some time ago in one of our sessions. Don't make for yourself an idol. Then don't make for yourself anything, an image of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. So, the question I have to ask is, what is he saying? What does he mean by, I can't take an image, an image is something that you see in your eyes, in your perception, in your perspective. Right? I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I alluded to the fact that everything is based on how you see something. Right? Your whole life is based on how you see things, how you perceive things. And we have to try to get that right. We have to try to correct that. And as we begin to correct that, then we see our lives changing. Then we see things begin to change because we change our perception. We change the way we see things. So why is God saying, don't make for yourself any image of anything that is in the heavens above, or in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth? We have to look at these three entities, these three places, if you will, these three perspectives, if you will, to try to get to understand, well, what is God saying? He's saying a couple things here. He's saying, one, that you have the ability to create. That's what he's saying. Okay? Because he says, don't make for yourself an idol. So that means you have the ability to make something, to create something, to see something. Okay? We know that because we living in a world and we can look around and see houses and trucks and cars and buildings high, buildings low, dungeons, and we've seen underground things, buildings underground, railroads, train tracks, all kinds of. So we've seen that humanity has the creative substance to build, to go up or to come down, to go down, sorry. We've built planes to go up and come down. We build rockets to go up and come down. We've built skyscrapers. We've built satellites. Satellites that go up and stay up for a little while and then come back down. We've seen that. That's the world we're living in. We've seen where human beings built this system called a computer that operates even faster than we think sometimes. Right? We live in that. So we can understand that. God is saying, you have some amazing creative ability. And we do. Okay? Electric cars and electric bikes and electric trucks and electric trains and all kinds of different things. And we've learned all kinds of laws, physics and chemistry and all kinds of breakthroughs, how to heal diseases and sicknesses. And we have done a tantamount amount of things for the time that we've been here on the earth. So we could identify with that. He says, however, not just that we can create. He says that there are things that's in the heavens above. What does he mean? We are living on the earth surface. Okay? That's where we live and breathe and move and have our being, on the surface of the earth. We don't live in the sky. There's no cities in the sky. Right? So he's saying, when you create things that could take you up in the sky, whether it's in your imagination or not, because we do have an imagination, and our imagination can take us places. Okay? Our imagination can take us places. When we see things out there, he says, don't make those things, don't make images of those things. Don't make any images of those things. What we do is we make those images, right? There are people who worship the sun and the moon and the stars. There are people who believe that the sun and the moon and the stars, the objects in the sky that we see, there are people who believe that they are gods. Right? There are stories, there are myths and legends about all these gods. The god of thunder and the god of lightning and the god of the earth and the god of the stars and the god of trees and the god of life and the god of water and the god of fertility and the god of we have legends and stories talking about these entities as gods. And Jupiter and Venus and Saturn and all these things, right? Saturn and Saturday and Saturnalia, all these things are connected. That's where the word Saturday comes from. It's a day of Saturn. Sunday is a day of the sun, the day of the venerable sun. It's a day where people choose to worship the sun as God. Saturdays worship Saturday as God. Thursdays worship Thor, the God of thunder, as God. Wednesdays, miércoles, worship whatever the God of Wednesday is. And all these days, and we say these days every day. We repeat them in our mouths because we grew up, we were born into this. Do we take time to recognize what we're saying and what we're doing? Right? All the months are named after gods. Janus. In February and March and April and May, June, July. They're all Roman Greco-related to gods. Everything that we deal with, God says, don't make any image of anything that is in the heaven above, that is in the earth beneath. What you mean the earth beneath? We are on the surface of the earth, I said. And we know that the earth is mass, right? So it's got depth. God is saying there are things beneath the earth that he doesn't want us to create an image of. What are those things? I don't know. I ain't going to find out. I don't want to find out. I hope you don't either. But God is saying there are things that's beneath the earth that he doesn't want us to deal with, to create images of. Right? Then he says, all that is in the water under the earth. So there's the earth, there are things that's in the earth beneath, and there's things that's in the water that's beneath the earth that's beneath. And we could imagine, we could see those things in our eyes, in mind's eye. Right? Some people have some kind of imaginations that's wild. And they take it and write it in books and put it on film. One such person that I think of is Stephen King, who writes all of these gruesome books. We see it in film. Frankenstein, The Walking Dead. We see it in film. Aquaman, Spider-Man, the Hulk. We see all these things that we create. We're the ones who created these things. We're looking for perfection. We're looking for that thing that will make us perfect. We're looking for the perfect being that already exists. See? And humanity is on this drive, on this path towards perfection. You want to live forever, which, as I've said before many times, that we were created to live forever, right? But we cannot live forever in the condition that we are in. God said so. We were created for eternity, but we cannot exist in eternity in the condition you're in. Thinking that you are it, you are God, there's no one besides you. See, there's a segment of human beings who think they're it. Who think they're it. And when you get into these segments of society who begin to think they're it, they begin to treat everybody else as they're not it. Right? And there go, ergo, we have all these wars and rumors of wars, racial wars. We have genocide taking place. We have the Holocaust. We have all kinds of things going on because segments of society hold fast to the idea we it. It's us four and no more. We the gods. We have the money. We have the influence. We have the power. We have the authority. There's some people in society who think that way, who believe that, who are so far gone into that there's no way coming back. You can't bring them back. You could preach and teach and prophesy. They ain't coming back. Ask Philip. Was it Philip? Who was running alongside? No, it was Paul. The story I'm alluding to it's in the book of Acts, I think, where Paul was talking to a big guy, a general or somebody in the Roman hierarchy. Agrippa, I think is the story I'm alluding to. And Agrippa had to stop him and say, man, you almost convinced me. You almost convinced me that I am not a God. You almost convinced me that I am nobody. And I have to turn to this almighty, all-powerful being, God. You almost convinced me. See, there are some people you can talk till you're blue in the face. You can't convince them. Okay? They hold fast. They are stuck. They are grounded. They are rooted into this concept, into this idea that they're the ones. They're the ones. And beside them, there is no other. See what I'm saying? He says, he continues, verse 5. This is why he don't want you to make anything an idol. Here's why. You shall not bow yourself down to them. You shall not serve them. For I, your Elohim, for I, Yehovah, your Elohim, is a jealous Elohim. See? Exodus 20 verse 5. He says, listen, if you make these things that you see, what is going to happen is you're going to bow down yourself to them. You're going to worship them. You're going to pay obedience to them. You're going to find yourself putting them before me. You're going to find yourself worshiping these things. And I want you to know, I don't want you to create them because I don't want you to worship them because I'm jealous. See? Think about that for a minute. This great, almighty God, this great God of creation, this El Gibor, right? This mighty one who created the world, who created the sun, the moon, he created all the things that we see and feel and touch. He says he's jealous. Huh? God is jealous? Jealous of what? What can he be jealous of? He has nothing to be jealous of because he has everything. When you think about the idea that God is saying, I'm a jealous God, you're like, come on, God, surely you can be jealous of this cow. This cow is not even in your class. You should laugh like the Lion King. I laugh in the face of fear. Because this cow is nothing. This sheep is nothing. This goat, and he proved it through the 10 plagues with Pharaoh. He proved he showed Pharaoh. Listen, man, you can't do nothing. I'm in charge. Yet still he says here, he's jealous. What is he jealous of? What does he have need to be jealous of? It's an amazing statement. But if you understand, if you understand how God loves, if you understand what love is jealous. Yes, as a matter of fact, in the book of Proverbs, warns about the jealous husband. It warns about the man who becomes jealous to the point of taking matters into his own hands if somebody does something to his family. I can't remember exactly where it is, but I know it's in there. It's in the book of Proverbs. Solomon talks about that kind of mentality, that kind of man who can get to that point where somebody does things to his family to the point where it gets him jealous. It gets him jealous to the point where he begins to take measures and take matters into his own hands. Yes, on the one hand, we talk about jealousy and, you shouldn't be jealous. On the other hand, you shouldn't do things that drive God to jealousy. Because God declares here that he's a jealous God. He's jealous in terms of the way he loves. He loves you so much that when you turn your back and go and bow down and give yourself and worship and do things to show your love or your affinity to somebody else, it raises that godly jealousy in him. Because there is a thing known as godly jealousy. It's not fleshly, it's godly. Anything that rises up from God is godly. And that jealousy, in that jealousy, God will make decisions that will benefit him and all those who love him. Right? Think about the flood. Okay? Think about that. We talk about the flood in subsequent teachings. But think about that. If God is a jealous God, then we can understand why he got so mad at the men who were doing so much filthy things during the time of Noah. You could understand why when he looked at Noah and realized Noah he's a cut above the rest. He's set aside himself. He is holy. And so he chooses Noah and destroys everything else. You could understand. Because I know that every single one of us as human beings are jealous too. We can be jealous. And I know some big shot out there gonna think, oh no, I don't jealous nothing. I don't have no jealousy. Don't fool yourself. There's something that you're attached to that when that thing is being messed with, you would get jealous. And that jealousy will begin to show itself in different forms. Anger, hatred, disgust, whatever it might be. He says, I'm a jealous God. I'm jealous. Like a man who has a wife and they go to the store and some other guy decides to hit on your wife. Maybe perhaps you might be away, a distance away. Maybe he doesn't know who she is. Just sees her by herself and decides he's going to try something. And might be looking at it from a way off, or you might just walk up and see them having a conversation, and then it hits you. It hits you like, yo, why you hitting on my girl? Why you hitting on my wife? This is my wife, bro. Don't mess with my wife. See, Proverbs talks about the jealous man in that sense. Okay? Don't fool with it, people. It's real. This is real talk. I ain't making up stories for you. We all, every single one of us, have that propensity for jealousy. And if that propensity is pushed beyond its limit, we tend to act. Yeah. Think about what's the guy's name who killed a woman and the man she was having relations with. It's in the Bible. I'm talking about scripture, not in life out there. I'm talking about the biblical narrative. And God saw that and God was pleased. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. When the children of Israel went to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab. And this Israelite decided he's going to take one of the girls, one of the daughters of Moab, and go fool around with her in the tent in the presence of Aaron and the peoples. I'm trying to remember the guy's name while I'm telling the story. Okay? And the guy get mad. The wrath of God rose up in him. And he got teed off. He grabbed a javelin, a spear. And the Bible says he thrust the spear through both the man and the woman. Trying to remember his name. Can't remember his name yet. I'm seeing flashes of a name, but I can't remember his name. Come on, name, come back. Come to me. Right? Yeah. See? Jehu was another man who rose up and thrust through his blade into the stomach of one of the kings. That's another story. I can't remember all the details, but the thing that I'm talking about is this godly jealousy that rises up in us in opportune moments. God says, I'm a jealous God. And I don't know any human being who's not jealous. We have that propensity too. And because he's jealous, he says in Exodus 20:5, I will visit the iniquity of the fathers unto the children. See? Unto the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. See, there are people who hate God. There are people, as the Proverbs say, a fool says in his heart, there is no God. Well, that's saying that there is no God is showing your hatred towards God. That's one way. And then other ways of showing your hatred towards God is creating idols and worshiping these idols, including yourself, including the people that you put up on pedestals, people that you put your faith and trust in completely, people just like you. Okay? When you do it to trees and cows and snakes and different animals that God has put beneath you. Because God said to the man and to the woman, have dominion. The word dominion is a word that kings use. Kings have a domain that they rule over. See? That's the only reason they call him a king. And a king has a kingdom or the king's domain. It's called the kingdom. A king rules a kingdom. So in Genesis 1, God said to the man and the woman, have dominion over the birds of the sea, the fowls and the fish of the sea, the birds and the fowl of the air, and over every living and creeping thing that's under the face of the earth. See? He made us have dominion over these animals, over the trees, over the land. He made us have dominion over these things. Yet still, some of us take these things and put these things as having dominion over us. That is what God is against. No, you can't have it backward. I didn't tell you to worship the cow. I didn't tell you to worship the giraffe or the snake. I didn't tell you worship the tree. I didn't tell you worship the sun, the moon, or the stars. Because they are objects that I made. I created those things. They can't do nothing for you. Okay? They can't do anything for you. And we give credence to those things. We give upper echelons to those things. We put them on pedestals. Oh, God say, I'm a jealous God. I am a jealous God. And I'm going to deal with all of you who hate me. And you show your hatred towards God when you do these things. Okay? You show your hatred towards God. And as many of us know who have read these biblical passages, these biblical narratives, the children of Israel, the people of God, including you and me, if you don't think you're an Israelite, then I would suggest you rethink that if you say you believe. Because Paul says, if you believe in Yeshua, that you are Abraham's seed according to the promise. I don't know what you think that makes you. God gave the promise to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob became known as Israel. So if you claim that you're not Israel, then I suggest you rethink that. Israel is not a side piece to the children of God. They're not a side thing. Israel are the children of God. He calls them the children of God, the 12 tribes. You remember, the promise to Abraham was not just to Abraham, but the promise to Abraham was to Abraham and his seed after him. His seed after him is considered not only his seed by blood, but his seed also his seed also by faith, by the kind of chutzpah that Abraham had, who would hear this voice, who would say, you know what? I'm going to obey this voice. I'm going to obey the will of this voice that says to me, have no other gods before me. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For my burdens are easy. What must I do to enter into life? Obey the commandments. Obey the commandments. See, I was listening to Nehemiah and Keith in the Torah portion yesterday. As a matter of fact, let's go there. Ezekiel 4, I think is what I could remember them saying. Somewhere in Ezekiel chapter 4, right, they were talking about this story. Okay, 17 verses, so it's got to be in here. Let's read it. Why am I reading that? Because I want you all to understand the repetitiveness of God, right? God repeats things that he says because he wants us to get it. He's endeavoring, he's doing everything possible that we hear and that we get what he's saying and that we begin to trust him and not in the arm of flesh. Ezekiel 4 says, you also, son of man, take a tile and lay it before you and portray on it a city. In other words, draw a city on the tile. He said, lay siege against it, build forts against it, cast up a mound against it, also set camps against it, and plant battering ram against it all around. Take for yourself an iron pan and set it for a wall of iron between you and the city. Then set your face towards it. It will be besieged, and you shall lay siege against it. This shall be a sign to the house of Israel. Moreover, lie on your left side. Right? God is talking to a prophet, talking to a man, and he's telling the man these things, and the man is like, a tile laid on my side? What are you saying? Get the imagery. Moreover, lay on your side and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel on it, according to the number of days that you shall lie on it. You shall bear the iniquity. So he has to lie on his side for how many days? It doesn't say. Is it up to the prophet? Not necessarily. It's up to how long he can lie down on that side. Days, maybe weeks, maybe months. I don't know. Get the imagery. For I have appointed the years of their iniquity to be to you a number of days. He has appointed the years. He's appointed the years, and the years will be calculated into days. So if you lie down 5 days, that 5 days will be calculated into years. Whether it's 5 years, I don't know. Maybe 5 times 5, 25. I don't know. But get the imagery. Even 390 days. So you shall bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. Is one day calculated as 1 year? That's not the most important thing, right? And there are people who study these numbers and stuff, and they could give you more insight. But that's not what I want you to understand. I want you to get the imagery of this man having to do these things because God has called him, God has spoken to him to do them, and he's been obedient. Okay? Again, verse 6, when you have accomplished these, you shall lie on your right side. So he had to lie on his left side for how much ever days, and there's lie on his right side for how much ever days, and shall bear the iniquity of the house of Judah. So Israel is the left side, Judah is the right side, right? But Israel and Judah are brothers. Israel and Judah is one family. Get it? Okay? Israel, Judah is contained in Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel, Judah is one of the tribes. Okay? I have appointed 40 days, each day for a year to you. So, is he lying now on his right side for 40 days? This is what he's saying. You shall set your face towards the siege of Jerusalem with your arm uncovered, and you shall prophesy against it. How is Ezekiel laying siege on Jerusalem? Not with an army. He's not a soldier leading a whole, a force of tanks and battleships and guns. No. With his mouth. He's going to prophesy against the city of Jerusalem. Take for yourself also wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, spelt, and put them in one vessel and make bread of it. Ooh, that's like a nice tasting bread. According to the number of the days that you will lie on your side, even 390 days, you shall eat of it. So he's got to lie on his one side for 390 days, lie on the other side for 40 days. He got to make bread to feed himself those days. I don't know anybody who could lie on one side for all that time. That's a long time to lie down on one side of your body. You're going to develop rashes and calluses and all kinds of stuff, I guess. But if God tells you, I don't think so. Would it be under some kind of discomfort? I don't know. Get the imagery. Your food which you shall eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time you shall eat it. You shall drink water by measure, the 6th part of a hin. From time to time you shall drink it. You shall eat it as barley cakes. You shall bake it in their sight with the dung that comes out of man. Woo! Gross! Yehovah said, even thus will the children of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations where I will drive them. Who is driving the children of Israel among the nations? God is, not the devil. Then I said, Lord, behold, my soul has not been polluted. My soul, I've never done these things. From my youth even up until now, I have not eaten that which dies of itself, nor is torn of animals, no abominable meat has come into my mouth. Where did we hear that before? Where did we hear something like that before? No, Lord. I have never eaten anything. Was it Peter? Was it the book of Acts? When the sheet came down and all kinds of four-footed animals and stuff were in the sheet, and Peter said, "No, Lord, I have never eaten any unclean meat." Oh. What am I saying? God says things, he repeats them. This was in Ezekiel. These are the instructions God is. Ezekiel had to make flour, as it said, with the dung that comes out of man. What is the dung that comes out of man? Anybody could tell me? Get the imagery, people. Is it the dung? Is it the real dung? Or what are we talking about here? Get the imagery. And even Ezekiel is like, wait a minute, hold up. I had never eaten anything like that. Anything that's desecrated, anything that's unclean has never been in my mouth. That's the same thing Peter said. The other one I'm reminded of is the rich young ruler who said, "What must I do? What good master, what must I do to enter into life? And to enter into eternal life?" And we studied that at length in different segments. And Yeshua answered him and said, "Jesus, believe in Jesus. Just call Jesus." No, that's not what Yeshua said. Yeshua's answer was obey the commandments. And the rich man, the young man, responded, "That's easy. I've done that all my life." That's what Ezekiel is saying. All my life, I've never eaten anything unclean. All my life, I've obeyed the commandments. Yeshua says, "Really? Okay. Let me give you a commandment now. Take all you have, go and sell it, all your possessions, go and sell it. Take the money, give it to the poor, and then come and follow me. And you will enter into eternity that way." And the gospel narrative says that the young man turned and walked away despondent. You think about it. You think about it. Verse 15 in Ezekiel 4 says, "Then he said to me, behold, I have given you cow's dung instead of man's dung, and you shall prepare your bread on it. And moreover, he said to me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem. They will eat bread by weight with fearfulness. They will drink water by measure and in dismay, that they may lack bread and water, be dismayed one with another, and pine away in their iniquity." See, when we don't take God at his word, when we choose not to believe God, when we choose to disobey God, when we choose to make idols of each other and idols of things that's beneath us, when we choose to display our affection to everything else except God, this is how God responds. He says he is a jealous God, and it irks him to see that he is the one who is feeding you, who is giving you life, who's trying to lead you in the right path, and you turn your back and choose other entities, choose cows and trees and snakes and other men like yourself, right? You choose to give honor to everything else except him. See, these are the ways we show God we don't care. I don't care about you. I don't love you. But he's the one who has bestowed his love on us. He is the one who took his own life in taking the life of his son. Right? He is the one who gave his only begotten son so that anybody who believes in him should have eternal life. He who believes in him has already been saved. He who does not believe has been condemned, even though that's not what he came to do. Because God didn't send his son into the world to condemn it. See, God, as we said, I think in the last teaching, God is in the world trying to reconcile the world to himself. That's what he's doing. He's reconciling the world to himself. He's not trying to destroy the world, even though he may have to destroy the world to reconcile the world. But he didn't come to destroy the world. He came to reconcile the world. But remember, he also told Jeremiah, I've put you over to break down, to destroy, to uproot. And I've also put you over to build and to plant. See? And sometimes we have to destroy something before we can rebuild something, like the potter and the clay. We have to destroy the old pot that we made because it's flawed. We have to now rework it. We have to take it off the wheel, relump it, and then put it back on the wheel and work it again to refine it, to rebuild that thing that we are trying to build. Hear me if you're listening to what God is saying. Okay? So, going back to Exodus, God is saying to us, in the first instance, do not have any other gods before me. He's also saying to us, do not make anything. So we are not to make anything, much less see something. We can see things in the heavens above, in the earth beneath, and in the waters underneath the earth. Yes, we have that ability to do that. And because we have the ability to do that, he doesn't want us to make anything that we do see. Because he's a jealous God. because he knows we will bow down to it. We will pay credence to that. We will pay obedience to those things. We will give ourselves over. Why? It's what we have. It's the thing that we have these affinities towards. We want to be able to see a God. We want to be able to see something. We want to be able to point and say, that is God over there. Whereas God himself, even though he's everywhere, you can't really see him. You can't really point at him. It's like the wind is blowing outside, and you see the trees moving, and you say, that's your God, the tree that moves. But the tree that moves is moving because God is blowing. It's because God is in the area. See what I'm saying? So instead of worshiping God, we worship the tree. Instead of worshiping God, we worship the cow. How could you put a cow over yourself when God put you over the cow? That's like spitting in God's face. That's what we do, people. And that's why these two commandments are the very first in line. That's why they're at the top. Right? It's the same thing the woman did in the garden. He tells the man, listen, I created all of this for you. It's all for you. The only thing I want you to do is not eat from this tree, even though it is created for you. I don't want you to eat from it. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter. It's not important. The reason why is not the most important thing. The most important thing is obeying what God said to do. He do not want you to eat from the tree. And what does she do? She goes and eats from the tree. Why? That's an answer we could mull around, we could discuss, we could hypothesize, we could theorize, we could do all kinds of things. We cannot change the truth. We cannot change the fact that she ate from the tree that God told her not to eat from, which means she disobeyed. See what I'm saying? There's no way around that. She disobeyed the commandment. She can't be a God. He can't be a God. And even though we were created for eternity, now we must die. Now, to exist into eternity, we must be born again. We must be reborn. That part of us that needs that connection with the eternal, that flame must be reignited. Because it's extinguished, it's out, it's dead. And the only way we could reignite that is to come back under the umbrella of God and obey what he says for us to obey. Why? Because we got out of the umbrella of God because we disobeyed. It's simple. See, what confuses us now, what continue to keep us out now, is our lack of understanding that simple thing. That is what keeps us separated from him. We don't understand that it is just that simple. To get back under the umbrella, we must understand that there is an umbrella and we must come back and obey. And as we obey, whether we are blood related to Abraham or not, it doesn't matter. We will be considered as the seed of Abraham, because as we obey, he obeyed. See what I'm saying? The instructions he got was he will teach us. What God knew about him was that he will teach his entire household, his seed, plus his servants, his wives, his daughters, everybody around him is going to be taught the way of Yehovah. Go read Genesis 18. It's all there. So in order to be considered the seed of Abraham, you not only have to be born of him, but the more important, you have to be obedient like he was. Because if you're born of Abraham and you're disobedient, you are excommunicado. If you are not born of Abraham and you are disobedient, you are still excommunicado. I like that word from John Wick. You see what I'm saying? That's the John Wick word right there. Excommunicado. You are born of Abraham and you obey, you are included. You are included. You are a part of the table. You can sit at the table, not underneath the table. You are sitting at the table. In reference to John Wick. If you are not born of Abraham and you still obey, you still sit at the table. You're not underneath the table. You are at the table. You are includominicado. Includominicado, that's the word. We creative. I'm just showing my creativity. Listen. So it's about what you do with the Word of God. What you do with Jesus. Not what you say about Jesus. Not that you call his name Jesus. And I don't mean to mock people who do that. See? But there are people who do that, who think that just by doing it gets them at the table. And that, unfortunately, is an idol. Because Jesus himself said, when you pray to the Father, you could pray in my name. But you have to pray to the Father. You see what I'm saying? Whatever you ask of the Father, I will do. But you have to ask the Father. When you look at the bronze serpent, then I will heal you. When you look at the serpent, I want you to look at the serpent. When you get bitten, don't look at the bite. Don't hold your foot and scream. When you get bitten, look at the serpent. The bronze serpent in the middle. Think about this, right? He told Aaron and Moses, he said, create this bronze serpent, right? A serpent made out of bronze, and stick it, wherever he had to put it in the community when they were in the wilderness. He had to put it somewhere, right? Whether it's on top or whatever. So I don't know, maybe I can't remember exactly where he put it. Let's say he put it at the top of where the tabernacle is on the top, right? So you could see it at any vantage point in the because if you think about 6 million people or over 6 million people, and they encamped by tribes around the tabernacle, you think about it, it could take up a pretty big amount of space, right? So if God releases serpents into the community to bite those who are disobedient, to kill those who are disobedient, and he says, your only option to live is, if you get bitten, look at the bronze serpent. You could look at it in a couple of ways, right? Because you might not be able to see, to literally see the bronze serpent, depending on where your tent is. It might be too far. It might be behind a little hill. The tree might be blocking your line of sight. I don't know. But there's another way you can see. It's called perception, right? So if you get a bite and you think about the serpent sitting on the thing, that's a possibility, I think. Because God alone, the people who were there, they alone know how the layout of the land was. I wasn't there, so I don't know. I could just read the story. I could just read the story. And as they rebelled, God said, okay, y'all rebellious. I'm going to release some serpents. They're going to bite you all. They're going to wipe you all out. Because I'm tired. I'm fed up of you all. Yeah, for those parents out there who talk like that. God said the same thing. I'm tired of you all. I'm fed up of you all. Disobedient, hard-hearted bastards. Not bastard in how you were born, but bastards in terms of being bad. Tired of it. I'm sending the serpents. You want to be delivered from the bite of the serpent? Look at a bronze snake. Look at it. And when you look at a bronze serpent, the bronze serpent subsequently became an idol to generations that followed that. And they made the bronze serpent an idol. They took the same bronze serpent that Moses and them made, and they made it an idol. They made that God. Maybe we do the same thing with Jesus. Maybe we take Jesus and make him the idol. But this Jesus is saying, pray to the Father. He points to the Father. He points to the Word, the commandment, even though he himself is the Word in the flesh. In the moment, he was not the Word in the flesh. He was the Word acting out every command, fulfilling them, acting them out, putting feet to the words. That's what he was. Showing us we have to put feet to his words also. So it's not calling Jesus. Is knowing what he did, believing what he did, and obeying as he did. becoming one with the Father. Whoever loves him, whoever loves the Father, loves him. Whoever loves him will love the Father. I and my Father are one. But that one is saying, nobody goes to the Father except through me. You got to hold on to that word and take that word to the Father. He is the word. Are you ready to obey? Are you willing to obey? You have to take your obedience to the Father. He is calling on us. He is demanding that we obey. Turn your Bibles to Joshua. Let me go back, sorry. Turn your Bibles to Joshua 24. Joshua 20. I'm trying to find where is Joshua. Joshua 24. We'll read this in closing, right? We will read it, talk about it for a few minutes. Remember, we're on that second word. Joshua 24, are you there? And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called on the elders of Israel for their heads, for their judges, for their officers. And they presented themselves before Elohim. And Joshua said to the people, listen, Yehovah, the Elohim of Israel says, your fathers lived of the old time beyond the river, even Terah, the father of Abraham, the father of Noah. Listen, they served other gods. So Joshua here he calls the elders of the heads. He called the elders and the heads of Israel and say, come on, I want to talk to you. Come before God, because God has some stuff to say to you. And then Joshua begins to talk. Yehovah, the God of Israel, says, as he's prophesying, your fathers lived in the old time beyond the river. Your fathers include Terah, who was the father of Abraham. So here, Joshua is telling the children of Israel that one of their forefathers was Terah. Terah was the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor. It's kind of historical. And he's telling them, Terah, Abraham, and Nahor, they served other gods. See, at one point, and then he continues, and I took your father Abraham from beyond the river. Wait a second. Joshua is talking. He starts off saying, this is what, he starts off like making a proclamation from God, like if he's prophesying. And then he continues, I took, but Joshua didn't take Abraham, it was God. So he begins to speak as God now. I took Abraham from beyond the river. So Terah, Abraham, Nahor, they was worshiping false gods. They lived on that side of the river, serving idols, little idols that they had. Put them up on stands, keep them in the pocket, put them in the bag. As we read all through the biblical narratives, Rachel took her father's idols and took them in her bag. Laban and all of them, they was idol worshippers. So it's the reason why God says, I am the God who took you out of the land of Egypt. You have no other gods before me. See what I'm saying? It's a reason why he says, don't make any images of anything that you see. Don't make idols. It's a reason why he laying it out like that. We got to understand that, please. Because those are the things we do. We make images and idols. We bow down to them. We hold them in high esteem. We put them above us. We put them above him. And God is saying, I don't want you to do that. That's what your forefathers used to do. And then I took one of your forefathers. I took him out. I plucked him out of that group. From beyond the river, verse 3, Joshua 24. And led him through the land of Canaan. I led him. I was in front and he followed me. I'm leading him all where he went, all where he go. And I multiplied his offspring. Wait a second. He couldn't make children. Abraham couldn't have children. Here God is saying, I multiplied his offspring. Yeah, he did after a while. But his offspring here is not just his offspring by blood. His offspring by faith, by people who saw him live his life a certain way and began to live their life, begin to pattern their lives after him. See, that's Abrahamic belief. That's Abrahamic faith. Then I gave him Isaac. And I gave Isaac Jacob and Esau. Wait a second. I thought Esau was, see, you see how Joshua includes Esau? Why is Joshua including Esau? Because Esau is a part of Abraham. Esau is Abraham's son. Now, if Esau decides to develop the faith of Abraham and walk in that faith, then Esau will become attached. He will become part of the covenant. He will become part of the family. But if he stays a wild man out there in the bushes running wild, doing his own thing, then he doesn't have that faith of Abraham. But God is hoping that he develops that faith. God is hoping that he changes his ways. Right? And here God is saying, I gave Isaac Jacob and Esau. And then I gave Esau Mount Seir to possess it. I gave Jacob and his children, they went down into Egypt. Joshua here, through the voice of God, through the Spirit of God, under the unction of God, because we see him begin to talk by himself as if he's prophesying, and then we see those words begin to turn into the words of God. I brought Abraham. I did this. I did that. When Joshua himself didn't do none of the things that he's talking about. Verse 5, I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt. Joshua didn't do that, but Joshua is speaking it. According to that which I did among them, and afterwards I brought you out. You see the same verbiage in Exodus 20? You see that same verbiage? And God spoke God spake all these words saying, I am the Lord, I am Yehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. See the same verbiage? God is saying the same thing here. I brought you out. I did all these things, and then I brought you out of Egypt. I brought your fathers out of Egypt, verse 6. And you came by the sea, and the Egyptians pursued your fathers, and with chariots and with horsemen out of the sea of Suf. And when they cried out to Yehovah, he put that, see, going back into Joshua speaking now. And when they cried out to Yehovah, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea on them, and covered them. And your eyes saw what I did in Egypt. See, he's going back and forth from Joshua speaking to God speaking, and so on. You lived in the wilderness many days. I brought you into the land of the Amorites that lived beyond the Jordan. And they fought with you. Remember? We talked about that a little bit briefly. And the guy who took the spear and drove it through the woman and the man who was having relations in the tent. In front of the elders. They didn't care. They're like, you know, shoo. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. And they fought with you, and I gave them into your hand. You possessed their land, and I destroyed them from before you. See, God is speaking here again. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose and fought against Israel. He sent and called Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you. He called a prophet. See? He called a prophet and paid the prophet to curse you. But I wouldn't listen to Balaam. See, before anybody do anything, they have to have permission, even the devil. And if God gives permission, then God takes responsibility. God is responsible for everything. He never, ever, nowhere in the biblical narratives, God shies away from being responsible for things that has happened. Verse 10, but I would not listen to Balaam. Therefore, he blessed you, even though Balak brought him to curse you, he couldn't. He blessed you instead. Because I wouldn't listen to him. You can't do nothing without me. Everything that's happening in the earth today, nobody is doing anything without God's permission. God, oh, you want to do that wickedness? Okay, go ahead. Let me see. Go ahead. You want to do that evil? Go ahead. Look out into the world. Men are doing evil beyond imagination these days. Not these days, but forever we've been doing it. Wickedness and evil have been perpetuated in the earth from the day man was created. And so I delivered you out of his hand. Verse 11. And you went over the Jordan and came to Jericho. And the men of Jericho fought against you. The Amorite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Girgashite, the Hivatite, all the ites, the Jebusite. And I delivered you from there, out of all of them. I delivered them into your hands. Be patient. I'm getting to a point. Okay? And I gave you a land on which you had not labored. I gave you cities which you didn't build, and you live in them. You eat of the vineyards and the olive trees, which you didn't plant. So Joshua gave them a whole spiel, even God, about where they were, where they came from, where they are now. Okay? And then Joshua says these words. Now therefore, fear Yehovah and serve him in sincerity and in truth. Listen. Joshua is saying, put away the gods which your fathers served beyond the rivers, beyond Egypt, and serve Yehovah. So Joshua here, this is after Moses, after Aaron. Joshua is still dealing with them about these false gods. And I promise you, it is no different today. Some Joshua out there somewhere is still telling the children of Israel, put away these false gods. Serve Yehovah in sincerity and in truth. Move away from the gods of your fathers. Joshua continues, verse 15, Joshua 24 and 15. If it seems evil to you, if it seems bad, if it seems wrong, if it seems unrighteous, unjust, undignified to serve Yehovah, he's saying to you, listen, I'm not forcing anything on you. I'm not asking you to do something that you don't want to do. But I'm telling to you the honest to God, the simple truth. Simple. If it seems evil to you to serve Yehovah, choose now. Choose today. Decide today whom you will serve. Whether you will serve the gods of your fathers, they serve beyond the river, the cows, the goats, the sheep, the trees, the snakes, and what the moon, the sun, the stars, and whatever else they serve. Or the gods of the Amorites, Diana and Jupiter and Saturn and all the sun god and the moon god and all the other gods, they're all the same. In whose land you dwell. But as for me, Joshua, and as for me, Maxwell, as for me and my house, we will serve Yehovah. See, God spoke of Abraham in the same way. God spoke of Abraham saying, I know Abraham. And I know Abraham because I plan to make him a great father, because I know him to the extent that I know that he will teach his household, his servants, his sons, and his household after him. He will teach them in the way of Yehovah. Go and look at Genesis 18. Joshua is saying here, I am holding fast to that same principle. As for me and my house, We will follow the ways of Yehovah. We will serve Yehovah. This is our choice. You make your choice. He's telling the people that. And now the people responds in verse 16. And the people responded, or the people answered and said, far be it from us that we should forsake Yehovah to serve other gods. For it is Yehovah our Elohim who has brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, and who did these great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way in which we went, among the peoples through the middle of whom we passed. So the people began to repeat the same thing God says. And Yehovah drove out from before us all the peoples, even the Amorites who lived in the land. Therefore, we will also serve Yehovah, because he is our God. So Joshua just gave the people a spiel, and the people is repeating the spiel and say, yeah, Josh, we know all these things too. We believe what you're saying. And so we also will serve Yehovah. Back and forth. Now Joshua says these words. And I want you to hear the words that Joshua says. Because when I read these words, I'm like, why is he telling them that? Maybe he knows something that they themselves don't know. Listen. Joshua, verse 22. This is Joshua 24 and 22. Joshua said to the people, this is amazing. This is an amazing conversation. Joshua said to the people, you cannot serve Yehovah. Ah? What do you mean? I thought you just said, you gave us this whole spiel and you asked us to choose. And we just responded to you that we are choosing the same God you have chosen. And Joshua comes back and said to them, you cannot serve Yehovah. What is this? Oh, this is amazing. You cannot serve Yehovah because he is a holy God. He's a holy Elohim. Okay? That's kind of weird, but let's continue reading. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your disobedience nor your sin. We've got to understand, okay? We have got to understand. I know we've been taught all kinds of things. We've been taught the law is no longer valid. We are not to follow the law. I want you to understand, I know what we've been taught. I'm saying to us, we've been taught incorrectly. We have to be obedient. Disobedience is our sin. Okay? And Joshua here says, you cannot serve God because God is a holy God and he is jealous God, and he will not forgive your disobedience nor your sin. Well, sin is transgression of the law. Disobedience is the same thing. So he's not talking about two different things. He's talking about the same thing. He's saying it in different ways. He's saying God will not forgive your disobedience. In Yeshua, the only way God is going to forgive your disobedience is by your being obedient. You have been disobedient, and under Yeshua, you have now come to understand how obedient he was, the price he paid for his obedience, and willing to pay that price. And become obedient like him, even unto your death. I'm just saying, people. Joshua is telling the people here, you can't serve God because God is holy. God is not the kind of God you think he is. God is separate from us. He stands out here. He is holy. That's what separate means. That's what holy means. He's separated. And he's jealous. God does not like the idea that you are making idols. You are serving idols. You have put things above yourself. Things that is not him. See, the only thing that's above you is him. Not another God. Not Saturn, Jupiter, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Not the tree, the snake, the rat, the cat, the dog. None of that. Not your money, your house, your land, your car, your children, your wife. None of that. Not another man, another woman. None of that. Not something you make from your hand because you see it, you hear it, you talk to it. None of that. Joshua is warning the people. Okay? The people responds to this remarkable statement. The people has made up in their mind, so they respond. Okay? Well, wait, let's finish off with what Joshua says. If you forsake, this is 24 and 20. If you forsake Yehovah and serve foreign gods, then he will turn and do you evil. Who will turn and do you evil? Not the devil. Oh, gosh. Father, forgive us. Please. The devil is not going to turn and do you evil. God will. He says God is going to turn and do you evil and consume you even after he has done you good. Okay? If you continue to believe the whole hashabari about the devil, then you keep blaming the devil. Joshua continues. If you forsake Yehovah and serve foreign gods, then Yehovah will turn and do you evil, and he will consume you even after he has done you good, even after he has blessed you. And you turn and serve God or other gods, God will consume you. He will turn tail and do you evil, because he is a jealous God. And the people hearing this make up in their minds and says to Joshua, Joshua 24 and 21. And the people said to Joshua, no, but we will serve Yehovah. Josh, we hear what you're saying, but guess what? We are not going to be swayed. We are not going to be dismayed. We are going to hold fast to our confession, the confession of our faith that says, we understand what God has done for us, and therefore we're going to hold fast and serve God. And Joshua says, aha, I got you now. No, he didn't lay a trap for them. He didn't lay a trap for them. He laid it out plain so that they all understood who God was, who God is, what happened to them, how they got in the place they are in, and he made it clear. This is who did it. This is who I intend to serve. And the people said, we understand clearly. We're going to serve the same God. He then turns and says, you can't do that because you have proven you can't do it in times past. The people said, we could do it and we will do it. And Joshua says, verse 22, Joshua said to the people, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen Yehovah yourselves to serve him. See, you're your own witness. See, to convict somebody else, for you to convict somebody else, you have to have two witnesses. For God to convict you, God just needs one witness, and that witness is you. God don't need a second witness to convict you. That's why when you go before him, you have to give an answer. And you can't say, he did. He did this. That's why I did that. Can't say that. You have to be your own witness. I'm just making it plain, people. Joshua said to the people, verse 22, in closing, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen Yehovah to serve him. And they said, we are witnesses. And Joshua reiterated to the people, now therefore, put away the foreign gods from among yourselves and incline your heart to Yehovah, the God of Israel. And Joshua and the people said to Joshua, we will serve Yehovah our Elohim, and we will listen to his voice. See? So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and made for them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the scroll of the Torah of God. And he took a great stone and set it up there under the oak that was by the sanctuary of Yehovah. So I'm just saying, these words are not just words. These words are a witness against us, even today, because Words have power. They give life or they take life. That's how important words are. Amen? I hope you have heard something today that have tingled your heart, that have turned your heart towards the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. The God you say you so believe in. The God of Yeshua. Yeah, I just pray and hope that this is what has happened as you were listening. In closing, turn your Bibles to to Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. As we close, we always declare the Aaronic blessing, the priestly blessing, the word that God spoke to Aaron and to his sons by the mouth of Moses, the way that Aaron and his sons ought to bless the children of Israel. Amen? Numbers 6, verse 22 through 27 reads as follows. And Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is how you shall bless the children of Israel. You shall tell them, Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. Yehovah lift up his countenance towards you and give you peace. So, or in this way, they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Until next time, Shavua Tov, Shabbat Shalom, adios, Dios te bendiga, arrivederci, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Good evening, good morning, good night. Deuces, peace,